Thank you very much, Sharon, for the introduction. Thank you to all the organizers of the AI Native Workplace for having me here. I'm really honored to conduct here a session about the EU AI Act, which is in place since last year. And yeah, it concerns a lot of companies and developers around the European Union, not only, but of the whole continent of Europe. And yeah, looking forward to deliver you hopefully some insights that you can take away after this session. And yeah, let's take a look what we will cover today in this session. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself so you know that who's talking to you. Then we will cover the basics about the EU AI Act, what it is, what it means. We hear something about categories, and then we go inside of the comparison from Copilot and ChatGPT. So what are we comparing and how do they fare with the key resolutions? I think 6 or 7 key resolutions of the EU AI Act, and how Copilot and ChatGPT fare in comparison in upholding those resolutions. And in the end, of course, we should have 5 or 10 minutes time for your questions. So if there are any questions, please put them in the chat. We will read them afterwards, so we have the possibility to go in a little bit of interaction. So first of all, some key points about me. My name is Fabio Bonolo. You may hear it out. I'm from Switzerland. I try not to speak with a very bright accent of Swiss, so I try to fit in a little bit. I'm team leader productivity at redIT. We do everything around Power Platform, collaboration, and Copilot, of course. Yeah, I've got my own YouTube channel where I post learning blogs about Copilot. I'm a Microsoft MVP in the category of Copilot. There on the right side, you see a QR code. And when you scan that, you'll reach my LinkedIn page. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So reach out to me, let's connect, and I'm happy to help. And yeah, I also have my own website, fabiobonolo.com. This is in German, although not in English, where I post some blogs all around the topic of Copilot, Copilot Studio, and AI in the Microsoft environment. So, but we're not here to talk about myself, right? We're here to talk about the EU AI Act. And as I introduced in the beginning, I want to cover some basics first, because not everybody has the same knowledge level of the topic. So my aim here is to get you everyone on the same page and on the same level of knowledge. So what is the EU AI Act? Now here you see a little logo. This logo is the symbol of the European Parliament, because it was the European Parliament who created or who built this EU AI Act. And it is the legal basis of not only developing, but especially using AI in Europe. And this lies the legal basis for this development and usage. And it was, it took about 3 or 4 years to develop the resolutions of the EU AI Act. So a working group of the European Parliament came together first time in 2021. Since then developed the resolutions, which was consulted by the European Parliament itself in June of last year, and is in force since August of last year. But not every resolution is in force. We will look at that later on in the timeline. But yeah, the EU AI Act on basis is in force since August of last year. Now, as I mentioned already before, these resolutions, they don't just address developers like Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, etc. They also address corporations and users as yourselves are, because also you have some kind of responsibility on how you use AI tools, not only Copilot and ChatGPT, but every AI tool that is out there in the market. And the most basic thing, I think, of the EU AI Act is that the key message is people before technology. So AI should always be supervised and controlled by humans. instead of automation and technology. And this is something that also all the resolutions that the EU AI Act has aims to, that humans should be in control over the development and usage of AI. Also, this law is built neutral, so there is no kind of specific technology that it aims to. So we here know maybe about generative AI, but there is a lot of other AI technology out there, beginning from machine learning to other kind of AIs. And this whole resolutions that we have here in this law, in this European law, serves for a broad aspect of AI development and usage. And the key aspects are that the AI or the AI technologies are based into 4 categories. We will look into this in these 4 categories shortly, but the main thing is this. The higher the risk category, because we are talking here about risk categories, the higher are the requirements and the compliant obligations that the law, the EU AI Act, states to the developers or users of such AI technologies. Now, let's look into those categories. So the first one is the minimal risk. So here, there is no need for specific requirements of the EU AI Act. So here, the AI technologies can be developed and used under common law. For example, GDPR, Data Protection, Cloud Act, etc. The developers and users of this kind of AI can, of course, document, be transparent about how this AI is developed, how it works, but it is on a voluntary basis and they are not required to provide this kind of information. Then we have the limited risk category. Here we are talking about AI technology that doesn't pose an immediate danger to people of the EU. But here we have some requirements, some law requirements from the EU AI Act. And in this kind of category falls the generative AI technologies such as Copilot, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, etc. And we will look into the requirements afterwards in the comparison of Copilot and ChatGPT. Then we have the third category, which is high-risk AI. Here, these technologies pose a potential security risk to people and rights. So here we are talking about AI in cars, for example. So lastly, I saw that Copilot is available in Mercedes, or they're doing some kind of project that we have Copilot in Mercedes. And here Copilot goes into the high risk category because it some kind drives or does something with the car or in airplanes, but not only in products, also AI in certain branches, for example, in law enforcement, transport, education, poses a higher risk for our values, for our people. And so here the requirements are a lot stricter and a lot more than they are in the limited risk category. These kind of AIs are generally allowed, but they have to follow these strict guidelines. Then we have the fourth category, which are AI technologies that pose an unacceptable risk. These AIs have been banned from the EU. We will look into the timeline shortly. And here we are talking about AI technologies that has something to do with emotions, that has something to do with identification of personal data, etc. So AI for social scoring, emotion recognition, surveillance. These kind of AIs are banned by the European Parliament. And so here you see the combination that we have here. We have AI in law enforcement, which poses a high risk to our rights that we have as people living in Europe. So law enforcement cannot use AI for surveillance, for example. They are banned from it, but they are not banned to use other AI that don't pose this unacceptable risk. So here we have some kind of dilemma that many branches and many product developers have to address. But there is a timeline where these developers can, or these providers also can work on their AI and on being compliant with these resolutions. Because what did the European Parliament do? As I said in the beginning, in August 2024, the EU AI Act is officially into force from that moment on, but not every resolution and not for every category. Because just since February 2025 of this year, the unacceptable AI systems, so these from the 4th category, they are officially banned only since then. So these kind of AI providers had the possibility between August and February to develop these AIs or to adjust their technology in terms of that it isn't anymore unacceptable, but it's more a high risk. So they had the possibility to go down in the risk category. They had some time. And in August of this year, so it was a month ago, the general AI systems for limited risk and minimal risk, these application of transparency rules, they become in force. So every provider like Copilot, ChatGPT, etc., they had to be ready in order to be compliant with the transparency rules, which we are going to look into afterwards. Then from August 2026, all resolutions of all the EU AI Act becomes valid. So there are some resolutions that we are not going into detail afterwards that are not yet into force. These are especially resolutions that addresses AI technologies from the higher risk categories. So also here, the high risk category AI technology systems and providers have time to adjust their technology. And all obligations for high risk AI systems come in force in August 2027. Sorry, this is the timeline for the EU AI Act. So if you have any questions, just feel free to put them into the chat. We will look into them afterwards. Now, this session is about how Copilot and ChatGPT fare. So now we have a fundamental basis on what the EU AI Act is and how these risk categories are aligned. And now we are looking into these resolutions, what the law says that Copilot and ChatGPT have to do in order to be compliant with the EU AI Act. And for that, we should know that we should have some parameters, of course, because we can't just compare anything. And what are the parameters? We are looking into the Microsoft 365 Copilot, the $30 license and not the consumer one. We are looking into ChatGPT Team and ChatGPT Enterprises. So these are these 3 products that we are comparing. Then what we are looking into is how compliant are these 3 products with the resolution of the EU AI Act, so these 6 or 7 resolutions, key resolutions that I picked out. And we have a focus on corporate customers. So we are not looking into how consumers use or are compliant with the EU AI Act, because many of you maybe have a ChatGPT license, a Pro license or something like that in private mode. This is totally out of scope today. So here we are looking just in enterprises and corporates. Then the comparison is based on public information provided by OpenAI and Microsoft, and as well from my personal experience and assessment that I did while researching this topic. The parameters for the comparison are easy. We have resolutions that are fulfilled. We have resolutions that are partially fulfilled, and when something doesn't fulfill the requirements, it is not fulfilled. So kind of easy, just that's what we are looking to. These are these 3 products. Just again to remind you, also this part of the pricing is an important part afterwards for the comparison and the results. Copilot is $30 per user a month. ChatGPT Team is also $30 per user a month. And ChatGPT Enterprise, there is no official information, but in some forums, they are talking about that you have to buy at least 200 licenses, and one license starts at $50 per user a month. This will become interesting afterwards. Then here I won't go inside. I will share or I think the organizers will share the slide with you, the slide deck. If you have an interest into the slide deck, you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will provide you here with these slides, and here you have links to the public documentation of Microsoft and OpenAI that I used for doing this comparison. Now let's look at the evaluation grid. So we have these 3 products, and we are looking at 7, I think, key resolutions of the EU AI Act. We look into transparency and information obligations. We look into human oversight and reporting. We will look into data security and data protection. We will look into freedom from bias and discrimination, traceability and auditing, usability and liability and responsibility from the providers. And to each of these key regulations or key resolutions, we will pose the question, does Copilot, ChatGPT Team, and Enterprise fulfill it, partially fulfill it, or not fulfill these resolutions or these requirements that lie within these resolutions? So far, so clear. Let's dive in. Transparency and information obligation. What does the EU AI Act say or require when we are talking about this kind of category? Here, the law states that providers and companies as well must educate end users about how the AI system works. So not only do some kind of coaching, but also how the back end of the AI system works. Also, AI-generated content must be labeled. And the providers have the obligation to provide information about how their large language models that lie behind those AI systems is being trained, which data is being used, how the data is being processed, etc. So these are the requirements that the EU AI Act states. Now let's do the assessment on this resolution. Copilot, in my opinion, fulfills it because all answers are being marked as AI-generated content. We have also on the bottom, on the Copilot chat or on each prompt that you do, you have the warning that AI-generated content may be incorrect. And yeah, Microsoft, as you may all know, is very, very strong in the official documentation. So we have detailed information about how the AI system works. And because Microsoft is using OpenAI's LLM, there is no training of the large language model. So not only do they provide the information, they go a step further and say, hey, we don't use or we don't train our LLM in any case. Now let's look into ChatGPT Team. Also, this product, in my opinion, fulfills this requirements because we have also a marking and a warning input below the input window, so below the prompts that you can make. They have also good public information available on the OpenAI. They have the trust portal. They have different kind of documentation available. Here we have some little limitation, but I didn't think that that is a reason for giving a partially fulfilled. In the trust portal, you need to purchase the license of ChatGPT Team in order to unlock some information about compliance, about technical information, whatever it is. So this is a little limitation here, but it is there. So if you have the license, you have access to this information. ChatGPT Enterprise, no training of the LLM as well. Here, this part was a long time activated, but now you can deactivate the training of the LLM when you have a ChatGPT Team license. ChatGPT Enterprise also fulfills these requirements. They have the same parameters as ChatGPT Team. Also here in the Trust Portal, you have to purchase the Enterprise license in order to access some information. Good. Then the next category that we have is human oversight and reporting. Now, I said in the beginning that the EU AI Act key message is that people come before the technology. And that's why I took this category as a key resolution and look into how Copilot and ChatGPT are compliant with these requirements. And here we are talking about the human oversight of AI system in general, but especially is that the humans or the reportings should ensure that the AI is used with ethical principles and data is protected from malicious intents. Also, you must be able as humans to monitor those AI processes and intervene if necessary. This is, you can imagine, you put in a prompt, Copilot or ChatGPT is working, and you have the possibility to stop the generation of the answer. So this is one part that is the requirement here, and also in order to have this human oversight and ensure that we are compliant in our usage of AI, we should be able to provide reportings and analytics in order that us humans can read these data and do some data-based foundations and decisions as well. So, how do those three products fare regarding human oversight and reporting? Copilot also here fulfills the assessment. In my opinion, you have the interruption of the response process that is possible, that is basic function. We have the Copilot dashboard that is available from 50 licenses in Viva Analytics, but also we have adoption reporting with granular breakdown of usage data. And later on, I will also comment to the topic of Purview, because in Microsoft Purview, we have a lot of auditing logs, how AI is used. We have different kind of compliance reportings that we can choose from, but I will come afterwards to that part. ChatGPT team, I see my my animation doesn't work as I wanted, so I take just the other live PowerPoint that I have prepared. Just give me 2 seconds here. Now you should see the presentation again, right? Is that correct?
Yep, we can see that.
Perfect. Okay. Then now it should work just fine. Yeah, now it works. So ChatGPT team, in my opinion, does just partially fulfill it, these requirements, because on the one hand, the interruption of the response process is possible. It's the same feature that we have in Copilot, but we have limited analytics and admin features in ChatGPT team, and we have no controls or GPT controls or evaluations that are possible. So we are strongly limited in the reporting part of these requirements. Therefore, it is partially fulfilled. On the other hand, ChatGPT Enterprise, they fulfill these requirements, because also here we have this basic feature of the interruption, and we have an analytics dashboard, and we have various GPT controls and engagements that are available. Also here, when we talk about Purview with Copilot, we talk about the compliance API that ChatGPT and OpenAI offers. And also here, I will dive into that a little bit later. So that's the assessment from the human oversight and reporting category. Then we'll look into data security and privacy. Big topic, not only since AI, but big topic for a lot of countries in Europe since, the time of the computers, I would say, and time of data processing. And here the requirements are that the AI should comply with privacy policies and laws that are already in place. Personal data has to be protected, and the AI system should provide measurements and reportings about unauthorized access and how sensitive data, especially personal data, is being accessed. And one of the most important thing that is especially relevant for Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. I don't know how it's in other countries, but the data must be stored not only in the EU area, but also in the country. From the UAI Act's perspective, it is sufficient if data that is being processed by the AI lives or is stored or is being processed in the European Union. Now let's look at the free products, how they comply with these requirements. Also here, Copilot, it fulfills these requirements because the data lies within the Microsoft 365 tenant and is being processed within the Microsoft 360 tenant. Also here you have out-of-the-box encryption available, and with sensitivity labels you have on top further encryption possibilities and functionalities. Copilot inherits permissions from the users of the Microsoft 365 tenants. So here you don't have any specific pitfalls that may occur. So here everything is in line. And as I said, we have various compliance solutions from Microsoft Purview, and the data residency is analogous to the geographic region that you select in the Microsoft 365 tenant. ChatGPT team, here's the first red one. First sad smiley. They don't fulfill it at all from a European perspective. Why is that? ChatGPT team is only compliant with SOC 2 compliance, and this is valid for the United States of America. We have limited compliance solutions, as we said also before, with the compliance reportings that are limited. We don't have comparable functionalities as Purview does, and we have no controls or group permissions that we can set, and the EU data residency is not guaranteed. So this is something that ChatGPT or OpenAI made possible in February of this year, that you can choose from the Europe as the data residency in ChatGPT team, but in their documentation they state under the license, hey, you can choose the data residency, but we do not guarantee it. On the other hand, ChatGPT Enterprise fulfills these requirements in terms of data privacy and protection, because we have compliance with international compliance guidelines that are already in place, for example, GDPR, Cloud Act, data protection, etc. We have various GPT controls and group permission that we can apply. And as I said before, since February 2025, you can choose the data residency, and in ChatGPT Enterprise, the data residency is guaranteed by OpenAI. Therefore, this is the picture for this category. Next one, freedom from bias and discrimination. Here, the topic is inclusiveness, of course, fairness, impartiality. There should be measures to avoid discrimination, prejudice, and distortion, and it should be the providers should be transparent about the behavior of the models. And here also Copilot fulfills it, because we have responsible AI in place. This is one of the big benefits of Microsoft 365 Copilot, and fairness and non-discrimination and bias freedom is one of the cornerstones, one of the 6 pillars of the responsible AI. Also, tests that I conducted showed that Copilot does not generate answers. If there is a sensitive topic involved, then Copilot quickly says, hey, I can't talk about this, or I can't give you any information about that. There is, of course, a regular review of the language models of OpenAI. What I find especially intriguing and especially positive in my assessment is that in the headquarters of Microsoft in Seattle, there is a testing lab for people with disabilities. So they can test all their software that they're developing, including Copilot, with people with disabilities, so that they have this inclusiveness also tested out. And for me, totally fulfilled. ChatGPT team is partially fulfilled because ChatGPT recognizes publicly that ChatGPT is not free from bias, because they state in their official documentation that the language models are built with Western views and English as the main language. So we have also there some kind of language barriers, and that the LLM can take opinions from the users. So you can train ChatGPT in some kind of way that LLM says that your opinion is correct. But why is it only partially fulfilled, and why is it not totally not fulfilled? Because OpenAI has done a lot of work in this area, and they are conducting research in this area, and they have gotten better, a lot better. But as long as these statements stay in the public information, for me, it's not fulfilled. As long as we have this kind of limitations, OpenAI has some work to do as well. And for ChatGPT Enterprise, there are the same parameters that are valid as for ChatGPT Team in this part. Next one is traceability and auditing. AI processes must be traceable. We have to see what users are doing with AI, the prompts, how AI reacts. Prompts and histories have to be stored and logged. And if an auditor comes to your company and asks for access to these AI usage, you have to be able to give the auditors access to these informations. If you don't have it, you as a company or as an enterprise have a problem. Now, how does it look from the provider's perspective? Copilot also here fulfills these requirements. Prompts and operations are stored in M365. We have the audit logs in the e-discovery of Microsoft Purview. We have various filter options for audit logs, and also in the admin center, without any coding knowledge, you can evaluate the logs and the usage of AI through various reports and data that is accessible. ChatGPT Team doesn't fulfill these requirements. Why is that? Because as we saw before, we have limited analytics. There is no kind of tracing of prompts and processes at all when you have the ChatGPT Team license. And in ChatGPT Enterprise, you have the analytics dashboard. And here's something that I mentioned before. You have the compliance API that offers various logs and compliance functions. So from the functionality perspective, it is similar to Copilot, but the user interface is a different one. So you have no portal or some kind of no-code user interface that you can use as you have in Purview, for example. It is an API where you can gather this information. So it is a little bit more difficult to provide the information to an auditor who maybe not be knowing how to program, but you can get the information when you want to. So the auditing is in that term possible. Let's look at usability. I think when we talk about AI, we shouldn't only talk about technical and legal aspects. We should only talk about how it helps users, how it changes the way we work. Yeah, that's why usability is one of my key resolutions that is also in the EU AI Act. So here they state the requirements. The AI should be easy and clear user interface. The AI should deliver precise and reliable results. There shouldn't be any malfunctions, so the AI system should be stable. And also the speed of the AI responses is one topic. And here the EU AI Act states that quality and accuracy comes before speed. So this is a requirement that the law states, interestingly enough. Now let's look at the assessment. In my opinion, Copilot here fulfills it partially. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Microsoft MVP in Copilot. I love Copilot. I cannot live without anymore. I don't even have a ChatGPT license. But when we are looking at these requirements, we have to be neutral, as we Swiss people are, and also state the facts. And for me, the main reason, we have some positive aspects here that It's positive, the integration in M365 apps. So we have a clear, easy user interface. It is in the flow of work. That's absolutely great. But one reason why Copilot just partially fulfills it is that usually we have a delay in the latest language models. So we know that Copilot uses large language models of OpenAI. So for example, GPT-4o, GPT-5, etc. And when OpenAI announces these kind of models, it usually takes 2 to 4, 5, 6 weeks until these large language models come into place in Copilot. And that has its reasons. It's because of responsible AI. So Copilot works on the LLM and on a technical way can say they configure the pillars of responsible AI onto the LLM so that they can provide this kind of responsibilities onto the AI system and onto the users. So this is one part why it's not why there is a deduction of the usability. We have some weaknesses in accuracy and creativity. So if you use an easy prompt and put it into Copilot and ChatGPT for comparison, usually ChatGPT gives the more creative answer. So this is also one, and the other one is because of the security and protection limitations that we have within our Microsoft 365 tenant, within responsible AI, our prompts must be very precise and detailed in order to get a good accuracy and good response quality. So therefore, these are the main reasons why Copilot gets a little deduction. On the other hand, ChatGPT team fulfills that part because we have multiple large language models and functions available. Or is the newest one. It is an easy to use interface. We have high creativity. And yeah, when we look at the stability, we had some outages in the last 2 years, but I think it was like 2 or 3, and that's totally okay. Because the requirement states that the outages or the malfunctions should be minimized and not, it's not even possible that we have no outages, never, ever. And ChatGPT Enterprise, in my opinion, here are the same parameters as ChatGPT Team. They don't differentiate from another. So that's one part where ChatGPT Team and ChatGPT Enterprise are better as with Microsoft 365 Copilot. And I think it is the last one, liability and responsibility. So on the one hand, developers are responsible for the security of their products. So they can be held accountable from governments and from the European parliaments. But not only the developers, but also companies, so enterprises. You bear responsibility for the usage because you have to make sure that AI is properly implemented, that security controls and all these features that we have within Purview, for example, are active. And also you can be held liable for failure to comply with these measures. So if you have an auditor that will come to you and say, oh, you have Copilot or you have ChatGPT licenses, can you show me how the users use it? As I said, you can and you don't have the information. As I said, you can get sanctions for that as an enterprise. So it's not only Microsoft or OpenAI that are reliable. It's also enterprises and corporations. Now let's look at the 3 products. Copilot fulfills it, takes responsibility for security and reliability. We have end user support, and also here one of the key pillars of responsible AI that they take responsibility for their Copilot, and we have regular updates and security reviews also of publicly stated and documented. So GPT team doesn't fulfill it. This was a surprise to myself as well, because OpenAI commits to regular security reviews. So it's a similar part with the bias topic that they are working and they are researching on how they can make their models more fairly and more inclusive. But what I saw in my research is that in their, I don't know how it is in English, let's say official documentation and contractual documentation, they state that they have limitation of liability in the business terms, and that customers may be held liable. So this is written black and white in the Office Official Public Documentation of the Business Terms of OpenAI, and that's why, yeah, it doesn't fulfill it. And sadly, also ChatGPT Enterprise, you pay $50 for a license, but you have the same parameters when it comes to liability and accountability. And that's the end results. That's the evaluation grid. So you see Copilot on this hand, yeah, fulfills it pretty good. ChatGPT Team, not so good. The only thing that's comparable to Copilot is ChatGPT Enterprise, which they fulfill these key resolutions of the EU AI Act very good. Let's look from my perspective, what I think of that. I think Microsoft has done a lot right in its strategy, not only technical strategy, for example, training the LLM and using OpenAI's LLM, but also from a legal point of view. And as we know, Microsoft works really strongly with governments across the globe since years. So I think they may have had an advantage, a knowledge advantage of what requirements will come into, and they built Copilot and also their other AI technologies around these upcoming legal requirements. So I think they have done a lot right. Hence, on the other hand, OpenAI is still lagging a little bit behind, but we have to admit that they are doing a lot of work, and they have done they have accomplished a lot of good things, also from a legal standpoint. But Microsoft is still, I wouldn't say miles ahead, but is still ahead of OpenAI in the legal part. Then, as I said before, as we saw in the evaluation grid, Copilot and ChatGPT Enterprise are comparable. And in the beginning, I said that the pricing is something important. Now, in order to get a comparable version from a legal standpoint, you have to pay at least $20 per month more per license, and you have to acquire at least 200 licenses. So it's much more expensive, ChatGPT Enterprise, in order for you to uphold these legal requirements, than going with the strategy of Copilot and using Copilot as your main AI tool for productivity, in the workplace. What's on the other hand that we have to see, Microsoft doesn't do a lot of work in the research department. So Microsoft is in the strategy of adapting and helping itself with results and insights that other AI technologies and AI developers and providers provide. Here, OpenAI has a big advantage. They invest much more in research and development. They are on the front line of AI technology development. So here maybe there will be some kind of shift in the future. 1444, that would be it from my part. I didn't see any questions, I think, here in the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now in the chat.